In planning our event, we felt that it was very important that we hear not only from some very famous people, some very hardworking people, some very creative people from our generation, but also that we hear from younger members of the Orthodox Church. And so we put together a panel called Campus and Cosmos, an Orthodox Roundtable. The moderator is Dr. Albert Sewers, who is Professor of English and Environmental Science at Bucknell University in Pennsylvania. And he, first of all, is going to speak a little bit about regional greening and the university, a project with Orthodox roots. Now, Alf is how long have you been involved with our steering committee? About 2 years, 3 years? About 3 years ago, came into our circle, and he's been ever since a very valuable contributor to all of our work, and certainly instrumental in helping us organize today's event. So thank you very much.
It's a great blessing to be here today. I would just like to ask, in addition to our panelists here, any seminarians, students, or grad students, if they could just stand up for a moment. I think we have some others in the audience who have come to visit here. Maybe we can give them a hand for coming. Thanks so much for being here. As Father Christopher mentioned, it's so important to reach out to younger people coming up in the church, and this particular issue is one that I think is both very engaging of young people and very important, of course, for future generations as well. I think what I'm going to do is just briefly introduce everyone here and then turn it over to our speakers, and we'll do in order with, I think I'll come near the end after Andrew, and then Ryan, we'll have you go. So, starting on the far right here, Danielle Xanthos, who is at Holy Cross Seminary, and then Martha Carlisle from St. Vladimir Seminary. Andrew Stoico is to my right here from St. Tikhon Seminary, and Ryan Hunter, who is finishing up his undergraduate work at American University and is active in the OCF there. And we'll start with Danielle, and then Martha, Andrew. I'm going to briefly speak about some things at my campus, and then we're going to finish up with Ryan kind of bringing us on home here. So maybe each of you, when you get up, you could just remind people of your name and affiliation, if that's okay, and we'll do it that way. So first, Danielle.
Thank you for having me here. My name is Danielle Xanthos. I'm in my final year of the Master Divinity program at Holy Cross. I do ask that we all keep the veterans in mind today in our prayers. The relationship between humanity and creation is made authentic by experience. Through the usefulness of psychology, we can understand the mental health benefits of encountering the created world. Through the truth of our faith, we understand the ultimate benefits of this encounter as a means of encountering the grandeur of God. As a student of psychology, I am intrigued by the great impact of the natural world on an individual. A number of research studies support the therapeutic effects of connectedness to the environment. One study urges mental health professionals to encourage clients to garden for recreation, improved food quality, and restoration with nature, even hinting at the spiritual fruits of gardening. Research shows a positive correlation between being outdoors and vitality, even more so than physical activity or social interactions. Another study suggests nature nurtures our skills, showing a positive correlation between being outdoors and creativity, insight, and problem solving. As a student of Orthodox theology, these findings should come as no surprise. However, it is necessary to discern them through the lens of truth. It is tempting in our age to view environmentalism as a sort of revolution, as a contemporary movement of the first world. But this movement began with the very foundation of the world, While one study states, eco-psychologists and theorists have suggested that environmental problems are symptoms of an underlying dysfunctional relationship between humans and the natural world. I would challenge this position to delve a bit deeper into a greater issue at hand. There is a third and greater component to this interaction, that is God. Deuteronomy 4:19 provides a command against idolatry. When you look up into the heavens and see the sun, the moon, and the stars, all the hosts of heaven, do not be led astray and bow down to them and worship them. The Western man views creation, as a thing in itself. Yet the film Amelie provides a beautiful and relevant axiom. The fool looks at the finger that points at the sky. Similarly, Abraham Heschel states in God in Search of Man, the world is not a gate. The world is a gate, not a wall. That gate leads to the grandeur of God. That finger pointing to the sky is creation pointing to God. This is the view of the biblical man, or biblical anthropos. According to St. Athanasius, there are 3 ways of knowing the divine. The first and simplest is to cease from lukewarmness and lead a good life by knowing the law. If we are capable of more, we may follow the second method of conversing with holy men and learning from their experience with the divine. But the third and better way is to look upon the immensity of heaven and by pondering the harmony of creation, come to know its ruler. Therefore, if capable, the best way of knowing God is through experience and contemplation of the wonder of creation. This past June, I had the novel experience of accompanying a friend and his father as they bought a couple of hives from a beekeeper just outside Nashville. What I encountered there quickly turned the novelty into inspiration. We met a beekeeper, a sturdy, rough, skilled man. He was dressed in a worn-down beekeeper suit, no longer white, but the color of burnt parchment, reflecting years of toil. The beekeeper casually rested his forearms on the bed of my friend's truck as if it were his own. I could barely understand his words, his last-minute rules of thumb for the novices, as they were disguised in the heaviest southern drawl I have ever heard. He was speaking about the bees, their community. There is a queen bee already in the hive. If she's not doing her job, a new queen will be elected. I now know this technical term of this process to be supersedure. There is a hierarchy in the hive. Each bee is assigned to a particular job: foraging, guarding, housekeeping, collecting, mating, and the list goes on. They keep an intricate and tightly run community. I left the beekeeper with 3 points to contemplate: the bees, the beekeeper, and the relationship between the two. First, the bees. A beehive, I realized, is reflective of a fractal dimension of society. They maintain a model community. It contains hierarchism and order, 2 elements of society Simone Weil suggests to be needs of the soul. Imagine the structure of our society reflecting that of the created world. Yet this can never guarantee utopia. Even bees abandon the hive. Second, the beekeeper. The work of a beekeeper requires a tranquil countenance, patience, awareness, and compassion. According to my initial and false judgment, this beekeeper did not look the part. However, this man, this beloved child of God, had a temperament, awareness, and humility that are born of authentic personhood, our being right-sized before God. He was aware of his qualities and talents and used them in his work. Third, the relationship of the beekeeper and the bees. The bees offer many gifts by their facilitation of processes and byproducts. They pollinate, allowing for fertilization, and they produce honey and beeswax. These gifts provide for the beekeeper's livelihood, emotional, material, and spiritual livelihood. In turn, the beekeeper respects and cares for the bee community. If approached at the wrong time or in the wrong manner, the bees could swarm at any moment. I believe the beekeeper's knowledge of the bees is intricately connected to the knowledge of himself. This experience of mine was more importantly an observation of another person's connectedness to his environment. The work of psychology contributes to our understanding of a need for this connection. Our theology further explains why this connection between humanity and creation is significant. St. Athanasius explains, God provided the works of creation as a means by which the Maker might be known. Perhaps this sheds light as to why studies indicate nature as so beneficial. It is an encounter with God that is life-giving and soul-filling. We can talk about sustainability, plot policies in the political arena, and strategically place recycling bins around our offices, campuses, and churches. But without the experience of the created world, our efforts are in vain. We cannot undo what has been done, but we can repent, metania. Perhaps we can reconcile our relationship not only with the environment God has given, but humanity, if we follow Dostoevsky's words, love all God's creation. If you love everything, you will perceive the divine mystery in things. Once you perceive it, you will begin to comprehend it better every day. And you will come at last to love the whole world with an all-embracing love. Through experience with creation and recognizing it as a gift from God, we cultivate a desire to work our way not to lost paradise, but to New Jerusalem, toward a land flowing with milk and honey. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Martha. I'm the president of the St. Herman Society for Orthodox Ecology at St. Vladimir Seminary, which is located in Yonkers. We're a relatively new student interest group. We've only been around for a few years. We submitted our bylaws last year. The society is what's called a student initiative. That is, students started it, and we have seminary oversight, obviously, and Chancellor Chad Hatfield is our faculty advisor, but it is largely student operated and sustained. We're united by concern about human interaction with the rest of creation, and it's the goal of the society to raise awareness and to invite dialogue about our responsibility as stewards. Last year we had a couple of events. We had a campus cleanup day, which is when we get into old clothes, anything that we may be able to dispose of later, put on rubber gloves, get rakes and trash bags, and pull trash out of the waterways that surround the campus. We also had a visit from Riverkeeper, which is a local watchdog group that monitors the pollution levels in the Hudson River. This year, we hope to increase the number of St. Herman Society events to 6. 3 each semester. We seem to be on track so far. We had Dr. Bruce Seraphim Foltz from Eckerd College come and speak with us at Indiction. And more recently, we did another campus cleanup, which was both exciting and a bit disheartening, considering how much had accumulated since last year, but that's another issue. Prayer accompanies all of our events. We served an akathist before Dr. Foltz's lecture, the akathist, Glory to God for All Things, and we served a Molyemen before the lake cleanup. It's my belief that in order to be truly effective, the St. Herman Society must engage the mind, the body, and the soul of its members. Books, lectures, conferences, and other activities that engage the mind give us a broad view of environmental concerns throughout the world. They help us to situate our ministry within the proper context, and they help us to initiate questions such as what is happening in the world, why should we be concerned, and what are the most effective steps we can take to act as good stewards of creation, all of which have been addressed today. In the practical aspect of our ministry, we respond to the admonition of the Apostle James that faith without works is dead. It's important we do not use intellectual exercises as substitutes for labor. Not only can this lead to hypocrisy, we preach but we do not practice, but we lose a very important kind of knowledge. When we pull garbage out of a lake, for example, we have experiences that you can't really replicate in words. You feel the temperature of the water, you feel the mud, you feel the branches scratching you sometimes, feel the difference between the smell of garbage and the smell of clean air. You hear the lake, you hear the rushing water, you hear snapping branches. It is, I would suggest, equivalent to the difference between, say, reading the text of the Divine Liturgy and attending one. And finally, our prayers fill us with the hope and the humility necessary to carry out our tasks. As fallen human beings, we almost never see ourselves clearly. We overestimate our abilities and believe that we alone can save the earth, or, and this can also often be a problem specifically for seminarians, we underestimate them and are tempted to give up because the problem seems so large and so overwhelming. Communion with God keeps us from both of these extremes. We are not God, but we are His instruments. We cannot do everything, but with His help, we can do some things. How does the St. Herman Society benefit the students or participate in it? A particular challenge for American seminarians is our loss of contact with the natural world. Orthodox tradition, both lowercase and uppercase t, testifies that all of creation participates in the joy of the resurrection. We've heard many quotes from church fathers today. I would put forth a few quotes from hymnography. All of creation rejoices in thee, O full of grace. What shall we offer thee, O Christ, who has appeared on earth as a man? Every creature made by thee offers thee thanks, the angels a song, the heavens a star, and so forth. Our hagiography is full of incidents in which the natural world responds to the power of God exercised through His saints. Wild animals become docile. Fields produce an abundance, springs appear, the earth itself will open to provide a place of concealment. And of course, we bless different facets of the natural world in our great feasts. At Theophany, we bless water, light at Candlemas, February the 2nd, fruit at Transfiguration, at Dormition, flowers, and in my favorite particular translation, diverse herbage. I love that translation. Without an appreciation of material elements that sustain our life in this world, we run the risk of forgetting one of the fundamental aspects of our faith. Christ entered the material world to save us. How does the society benefit the seminary? Our speakers do bring in a certain amount of visitors. This is true, and we're very grateful for it. And I like to think that our campus cleanup and recycling efforts will have some effect on the general environment of the campus. However, this question in general is one that could be asked of any student interest group, and my answer could probably apply to all. Many of the students at St. Vlad's will go on to assume leadership roles in the church, God willing. Our experiences in seminary prepare us for our service, and the quality of our service reflects, within reason, back upon the seminary itself. Why then should students only learn how to follow? Obedience, obviously, is one of the virtues of our faith. I'm not saying it isn't, but the support of student interest groups on campus encourages students to not only do as they're told, but to act with a certain degree of initiative. We at St. Vlad's are assigned community service, chapel attendance, and classes. Student interest groups, on the other hand, are purely voluntary, and they are the arena in which students identify problems in the world at large and craft responses. As leaders in the church, we are going to encounter challenges in parishes, in service organizations, in academia, and other facets of life. We will have to respond to these challenges. Thank you very much.
Reverend clergy, distinguished guests, fellow panelists, brothers and sisters in Christ, glory to Jesus Christ. There are 3 parts to my presentation entitled The Ecological Steward, a new ministry for Orthodox parishes and campuses. In the first part, I will mention several ways in which St. Herman of Alaska is a prototype of the Orthodox attitude toward creation. In the second part, I will explain how the cross is a symbol of reconciliation of the alienated world in which we live. In the third part, I will give specific suggestions for a new ministry of ecological stewardship for Orthodox parishes and campuses. Part 1, St. Herman of Alaska as a prototype of Orthodox stewardship. In this first part, I will mention some ways in which St. Herman of Alaska, the first sanctified of North America, can be viewed as a prototype of the Orthodox attitude toward creation, because the light of his holy life and great deeds guides those who follow the Orthodox way, to quote the words of his Troparion. I feel that the new ecological ministry can be aided by St. Herman's example. Most of all, his life reveals a reverence for creation and all of life. This holy monk, Father Herman, is known for his supreme love of Christ and all creation, as well as for his wisdom and miracles. This true wilderness saint lived on Spruce Island near Kodiak, Alaska, in humble simplicity of spirit and heart. He is a model of stewardship of God's creation, wherein he exemplifies a synergy between man and nature. Examples are manifold. He cultivated the land in stewardship of God's gift of nature and replenished it. He fed the animals, including an ermine, bear, and birds. He helped fish by clearing blocked river flow so that the fish could swim unhindered. He not only taught, but also lived the science of all sciences, the law of God. His garden provided for his subsistence and others. He taught his beloved native Alaskans organic farming, as it would be termed today, and God provided everything in abundance. In addition to living in harmony with the natural world, St. Herman's continual prayer for all creation was fervent. He prayed for the salvation of his neighbors, and because he cared for the moral enlightenment of the Alutiiks, he built a school. As he believed, so he acted. Gentle, meek, and compassionate, yet powerful in his speech when he taught. His life demonstrated self-sacrifice, and he wasted nothing. He was a caretaker of not only the Alutiiq natives who came to him, but of all creation that was entrusted to his care. 2 supreme examples of Father Herman's love for people and for all nature are manifested when both a tidal wave and a rapidly spreading forest fire were miraculously stopped as a result of his fervent prayers before an icon of the Theotokos. To conclude this first part, in which we affirm that Father Herman is a prototype of Orthodox ecological stewardship, we must emphasize how St. Herman's holy life bore witness to the Orthodox cosmological worldview by replenishing the earth, by caring for all creation, by living in humility with sacrifice, yet in abundance, by having love and joy, by being in the constant presence of God, by abhorring the abuse of any living creature that God has created, and having joyful gratitude for all that the Lord has provided. The witness of his lifelong conversation and protection of creation that was inseparable from his constant praise of God and his obedience to Christ changed the life of others. Indeed, the grace-filled miracles of changing hearts and minds, whereby others were converted to Christ, is the greatest miracle brought about by St. Herman's actions, great deeds, spiritual teachings, and his many sayings. Part 2, the cross as a symbol of reconciliation and the Transfiguration. The fallen world in which we live is characterized by alienation from that with which we originally united, alienation from ourselves, from God, from our fellow humans, and from the animals and the world of nature. Reconciliation with that from which we are separated is what constitutes salvation.